Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this special meeting. It is being held, it is a special meeting for one topic because of some legal planning issues that need to be dealt with on a timing issue. So if we can move forward, and I'm going to ask, are there any conflicts of interest? So if we can move into hearing the presentation from the planning department.
Thank you. Good morning, members of council, staff, and members of the public. I'm Eric Rumpel, Planner 1 with the city. This is the public meeting for official plan amendment number 44 and zoning bylaw amendment 5-2022-85 of 2002, submitted by Zelinka Priamo Limited on behalf of their owner, the owner of the property, Southside Construction Management Limited, for the lands located at 1450 London Road. The proposal being discussed today is for the redevelopment of the subject lands to allow for the development of 4 6-story apartment buildings containing a total of 324 rental dwelling units. The project has triggered amendments to change the official plan land use designation from commercial center to apartment residential. The zoning would change from commercial center 1-1 to site-specific urban residential 5-34 zone. The proposed zoning includes the following site-specific provisions. 1, a minimum lot area of 23,984 square meters for up to 324 dwelling units. 2, a minimum front yard depth of 4 meters. 3, a minimum landscaped open space of 33%. And 4, a maximum lot coverage of 40%. All other regulations for the urban residential 5 zone shall apply. The proposal represents an efficient use of the existing site that would contribute to the range of housing options within the city, in an area which has the necessary municipal services and is within close proximity to a variety of commercial uses, Lambton College, and transit. Staff recommends approval of this application as the proposal would be consistent with the provincial policy statement, generally conforms to the county and city official plans, and would constitute good planning. In addition, if the proposed amendment is approved, the owner would be required to enter into a site plan control agreement and obtain a building permit to facilitate the development. Thank you.
Question to you, on the site plan, some of the concerns that have been raised by the adjacent veterinary clinic and some of the traffic issues, they be dealt with on the site plan or today?
Those issues could be addressed by the site plan, yes.
Questions from council? Councilor Burrow?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple. What would be considered like the parkland area that would be sort of not designated for, but used by the residents of this facilities?
Through the mayor, do you mean parkland that would be located on the site or within proximity to the site?
Yeah, like generally you like to have parks available for people. So what would be the parks that would be considered sort of the neighborhood or used parks for these people?
Right, so the subject property is located along several transit lines and is within walking distance and active transportation distance of the facilities on Wellington Street, the Wellington Community Hub there. So I think that would be considered the neighborhood park lands.
From
Yes.
Wellington?
Correct, yes.
Oh, that's quite a ways from Wellington, I would have thought. But anyways, another concern that I thought I read somewhere and I've heard through the grapevine with regards to the crossing, it appears as though at least some of this, if not all, is intended to support the college. What is going to be the method of getting people across the street? Are they going to put in at some point a crosswalk or a traffic light or something to sort of ease that concern?
So the traffic impact study that was submitted with the proposal suggested that that wouldn't be necessary. However, the County of Lambton Public Works Department did submit additional questions to clarify that. And if it is deemed necessary during the site plan stage, then measures could be taken, for example, to install a pedestrian crossing there.
Because there also was a concern, I think it was from the county group, that there's not a lot of sidewalks in that area, I guess on the south side. Is that what their concern was? One of their concerns?
Yes, I did have concerns about sidewalks as well as the potential pedestrian crossings to get to Lambton College.
Okay, so that potentially will be covered by the site plan agreements or somehow in the county process?
That is correct, yeah, that would be dealt with during the site plan process.
Okay. And I guess the mayor has kind of already asked this question, but there was a concern with the neighbor with having privacy fence. Is that something that would normally be required?
So there is no zoning provisions requiring a fence along that property line. However, that is something that is frequently included in site plan agreement provisions as well, yes.
So it's not required?
Not required according to the zoning bylaw, no.
Between residential and commercial, it's not, a fence is not required?
Council Burl, I think that's a question that you can propose to the applicant's agent when he gets here. Because many developers will understand that and put in the
Okay.
appropriate fencing.
Thank you.
Councillor Stark?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going back to the site plan agreement, my understanding is that typically that does not come back to us. So if we were to insist upon the items that have just been discussed, we would have to do it at this meeting, at least give direction that we are expecting that to be part of the site plan agreement. Is that correct?
Through the mayor, that is my understanding, yes.
Thank you.
But anyone, I mean, the site plan agreement, remember we had another issue recently that the site plan agreement, where's Ms. Forfar? I believe we have a provision, the site plan agreement, if we wish, can be bumped back up to council if you have concerns.
For the mayor to members of council, that is correct. There is a bump up provision, so we'd be happy to return the site plan if there are concerns for final review by council.
If we don't get the answers that we, okay, thank you. All right, any further questions to staff? Not seeing that. I'd like to call upon the applicant's agent if they would come forward, please, to speak.
Good morning, Your Worship, members of council, members of the public. My name's Dave Hannam. I'm a partner and registered professional planner with Zelinka Priamo. We're a London-based planning consultancy. We're the planning consultants for Southside Construction Management Limited, who are the owners and proponents of this particular development. We've had an opportunity to carefully review staff's report, and obviously we welcome the recommendation for approval, and we're hopeful that council will provide a positive endorsement today as well. Eric did an excellent job in providing a synopsis of the project. I've prepared a short visual presentation which I'll go through to highlight some of the key aspects of the development. Just go through to the next slide, please. Look, I'm sure you're all familiar with this particular site. You know, it is unique in its character because it has been predominantly vacant since 2013. And it is adjacently located towards, you know, a significant commercial node, and opposite the Lambton College as well. There's also existing residential. Put the next slide on. This is just a Google Street image from the frontage to confirm that it is vacant. It's predominantly flat. There is some peripheral landscaping which will be maintained where possible. It also has two existing curb cuts and access points off London Road. Contextually, as I indicated previously, it's well positioned to serve this particular portion of Sarnia and the wider community because its location, proximity to the college, existing commercial development, and residential as well, and also the surrounding road network. Just a little bit more about the proposed development itself. It is 4 6-story apartment buildings comprising 124 units. They are all going to be rental units and form part of Southside's permanent portfolio. As part of each of the units, and there will be a mix of units. There's going to be 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units within this development. Each unit will have its own private amenity space. Within the buildings themselves, there will be secured bicycle parking proposed on each floor of each building, and the buildings will be placed around the exterior lot lines and then centered around a 2.5-story structured parking facility, which will provide all of the required standard and barrier-free parking. There will also be visitor spaces as well. So you can see from the plan in front of you, the green areas are identified as landscaped areas, also available for the use of future residents. And then we would expect to sort of utilize the existing open space areas within the area, particularly across the college for future residents as well. Next slide, thank you. This is just a rendering of Building D, which is going to be the building that fronts onto London Road. As part of that, we've pulled this building as close as we can to London Road, whilst also providing for future landscaping. A building of this scale and in this location, and when we talk scale, we're talking typically from an urban design perspective in terms of its proportionate relationship to the width of London Road, is considered good urban design policies. We have to, in this instance, take account of a requested 7-foot road widening along London Road as well, that was requested by the county. Slide, thank you. So this is another rendering from an aerial perspective to give you more insight in terms of the layout of the actual proposal itself. You can see that the buildings are sort of orientated along the exterior lot lines, and then the centralised parking structure in the middle. Building D, as I talked about earlier, is the building in the frontage there, which effectively seeks to establish a strong street wall along London Road, but also allows screening of the interior, particularly the parking structure, when viewed from London Road as well. Thank you. So just quickly, in terms of the instruments, Eric talked a little bit about that. The amendments that you see before you are really to encapsulate the move away from the commercial designation and zoning to facilitate the existing the proposed apartment building, which generally aligns with the direction that was taken as part of the new official plan, which seeks to redesignate these lands for mixed use, which allows for residential. And within that designation, they look to encourage medium to high density built forms as well. In terms of the proposed zoning, the urban residential 5, that's that's the same zone that's applied to the existing multi-residential development to the north. So as with typical with these applications of this scale, there was a full suite of technical materials submitted. You can see from the slide, some were peer reviewed by city consultants. The others have gone off to the ministry for confirmation as well. In terms of additional notification, we sent out letters to the owners of all of the properties within 120 metres. We also posted notice signs, particularly on the multi-residential neighbourhood to the north. As a result of that additional notification, we didn't receive any comments back from any of those residents or owners. I know that there has been some discussion and comments made by the owner of the commercial property to the west, and those concerns relate to unauthorised access from future residents of this development and for sightlines. What I can say, I think it's important, and it's been mentioned to this point, that aspects such as lighting, landscaping, and particularly fencing will be addressed through the site plan process. I can stand here and say that on behalf of the developer, that fences will be put up on the perimeter of all of this development. We're certainly willing to work with the owner, and I can have a chat to him afterwards with regards to the access perspective. Certainly, we want to be good neighbours here, so we'll be putting in fencing and chatting to them. The sight line issue is a little trickier to address because as I mentioned, the good urban design practice is to pull building D towards the street. And also it's going to be difficult to alleviate that concern from sightlines because the existing commercial building on the neighbouring side is already set back about 100 feet. So I don't think we're going to be able to resolve that particular issue, but the issue with regards to fencing, certainly we'll address that and work with staff and the neighbour as well. On to the last slide, if you wouldn't mind. So this is a summation of the key considerations, in our opinion, and that of city planning staff, is that, you know, the proposed development is supportable. It's appropriate and desirable for the subject lands. It's supported by all levels of land use planning policy. Obviously, the introduction of 324 much needed rental housing units in this part of Sarnia is much needed. It's strategically located close to the college, although the client has spoken to the college, but that's not it's a free market exercise with respect to that. So it's obviously on a higher order road. We haven't had any significant concerns raised by neighbours. We've been very careful to make sure that they're fully engaged in that process, and we've provided the technical study. So, in our professional opinion, as well as the city planners, it's desirable and makes good land use planning sense. So, we're hopeful of a positive endorsement from the council. That's the end of my
Thank you very much,
presentation. Happy to answer questions or now or
Yeah, we'll
whenever
take
it's
the questions
appropriate.
now. First question is the one that probably goes through most people's minds, is the affordability.
Yep.
The market rates that will be charged for these apartments. Do you have that information at this time?
I don't at the moment, unfortunately. I'll speak to the client once we start moving through that process. Certainly, my view with regards to affordability is that the key matrix to that is improving supply. And this is obviously what this development does. And also within that supply, we're providing a range of unit types and sizes as well, which also adds to that affordability. But in terms of a price point at this type, it's a little.
Councillor White?
Thank you, Mayor Bradley. Thank you for your presentation. It's a great project. I have just a few questions, though. In terms of the green space, as you referenced earlier, that would be for use for the residents. What do you see as use for that? My colleague earlier alluded to the fact that parks are a reasonable distance away. So will these exterior spaces be furnished with amenities like picnic tables, benches, things like that for residents to be able to just enjoy some outdoor quiet time and social time?
Absolutely. So, Southside is an experienced developer. They've done lots of developments like this, and a key focus is providing amenities for future residents, because obviously that's their key market with respect to that, and that's not only outdoor but indoor as well. So there'll be a combination of outdoor and indoor amenities available. Obviously, they want to focus on ensuring that they meet these sort of higher order policies of intensifying in appropriate locations. So a driving force behind that is obviously the yield on the site, but they have been mindful of ensuring that there's suitable setbacks from properties, and within that, then that allows to provide for outdoor amenity space, meaningful landscaping, etc.
Right, and to your point, I think it's excellent density on this particular site, so well done on the design. What is, again, you said it's a free market, so this isn't specifically for college students, but is there a particular plan for short-term leases, or is it intended that the leases will all be annual, or do you have plans for the summer months? Will there be temporary residents during that time?
Yeah, I'm not privy to all of that information, unfortunately, but it's certainly not going to be an Airbnb or something like that that's geared towards annual renewals and international students, those sorts of things as well.
Thank you.
Anything further? I'm not seeing that. Thanks very much, Ms. Hannam, for the presentation. Sorry. Go ahead.
As the applicant, would you be agreeable, amenable to, I know you've alluded to the privacy fencing, but would you be amenable to that being included in the site plan?
To be honest, I typically, for most municipalities, as part of site plan, we would expect that requirement to come through the city to provide privacy fencing around the periphery of the site.
And have you addressed the issue of the crosswalk or potential crosswalk and who would pay for that?
My understanding, we received the comments through from the county in terms of further discussions on the traffic impact statement and the fact that it could be addressed through site plan. My understanding is that the college is looking at possible modifications to their access, including sidewalks, the consideration of crosswalks, etc. So those discussions are ongoing with our client, but he certainly, if there is a requirement, then he'll pay his fair share.
Thank you.
Should tell council, the college president yesterday said they're fully supportive of the project, but it is also a community project, not specific to the college. Thank you. Thank you very much then. Mr. Douglas, do you wish to speak to us?
Good morning. My name is Keith Douglas. Mark Barassa, I'll just ask Mark to acknowledge himself to put a face to the name. Mark Barassa and I own the property and building at 1438 London Road. The building and property operates as a veterinary hospital and includes a veterinary dispensing pharmacy component. So new to our neighborhood is a proposed residential development adjacent to us to the east. While we look forward to the development, such a substantial development will likely have an impact on existing neighboring businesses and their properties. We do not believe our concerns are unsurmountable. Our concerns regarding changes to our neighborhood could be described broadly and primarily as privacy, security, and confidentiality issues. Grassy space outside the hospital building primarily functions as an exercise area for patients, recreational area for staff and their pets during breaks and lunch times. This well-treed and grassy area is also chosen weather and season permitting when end-of-life decisions and those procedures are carried out. All of these functions have been and should be private from public view. The hospital is staffed overnight. Staff members are sometimes required to be outside the building during nighttime hours. These are the most important concerns that how the proposed changes to our neighborhood may impact us. Our subsequent ask is that 1, we are provided with a perimeter fence both high enough and solid enough to provide the privacy, security, and confidentiality we have enjoyed in the past. 2, we are provided security lighting in the perimeter of the property to give a level of security during the nighttime hours. Some additional concerns that may impact the business at 1438 London Road. Building D from the plan appears to obstruct any view of our hospital building when approached from the east, and may even block the view of signage at 1438 when approaching from the east. Lambton Public Health advises there is inadequate open space for this development. That inadequacy may encourage an inappropriate use of the green space at 1438 London Road. Inadequate parking space at 1450 London Road may encourage inappropriate use of parking spaces at 1438 London Road. Currently, left turns out of 1438 London Road and the Lambton Mall driveway are proving to be difficult, especially at busy times, and accidents have resulted. Building D placement and the increased traffic associated with increased residential development could increase those, especially left turn difficulties, and result in subsequent accidents. In summary, we request that Building D be relocated and built in line with adjacent buildings to be consistent with the character of the neighborhood and businesses on either side. It would also allow our business to be visible from traffic coming from the east and increase visibility to traffic for clients exiting our business and the mall next door. We request that the developer be responsible for erecting a professional-looking privacy fence to the north and east boundaries of our property. We request the green space requirement not be reduced, and we request that ample parking be maintained. Thank Thank you for listening to our concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. I'm just going to ask staff, if we want these concerns to be addressed, can we flag that to go to the site plan and then come back to us if we're not satisfied?
With the mayor, to members of council, the appropriate process would be to just bump it up through site plan, and then we return and we can speak to those specific items as part of that final approval.
Well, what that would mean, Mr. Douglas, is we'll go off the site plan committee, the staff and all that, and then would come back to us, which is unusual.
Yep.
But that would give us an opportunity to see if your concerns have been addressed.
Thank you.
Councilor Vandenberg?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if the fencing that's being mentioned here, if the fencing could be not wood and masonry or something solid, a little stronger. I just noticed in some of the other subdivisions, the fencing falls apart after a few years. Masonry doesn't. If you go into London along Old 22 in the Masonville, you see all these nice concrete walls that they're soundproof and last a long time. So I wonder if we could look at that as well.
Orvar?
Through your worship, we'd be happy to make all considerations and have those discussions with the applicant through that site plan process.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you. Councilor Dennis?
I'd like to move the staff recommendation.
Okay, let me just finish off the technical part here. Does the applicant's agent wish to make any further comments? Because you have that right under the Planning Act before I close the public meeting. Thank you. Okay, Councilor Dennis?
Yeah, I'd like to move the staff recommendation, and if I can have a seconder, I'd like to speak to it.
Councilor Burrows seconding. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor Bradley. I could not be more supportive of this outstanding development project for our city. I think we owe a big thank you to Southside Construction for the proposed investment, which will result in 324 new rental units. This project translates to a greater city revenue, lots of construction and related jobs, significant spin-off jobs, more business activity for our local businesses, more housing opportunities for our residents. It's a big win-win-win. Thank you to staff for working on this project and recommending approval. I'm excited to see this project and look forward to making to more like it in the future. Thanks again to Southside Construction. I appreciate you and your commitment to Sarnia. Thank you.
No further speakers. Councilor White, then I'll call the question. And
Thank you, Mayor Bradley. And thanks to you for your suggestion on bumping this up, the site plan, agreement, to come back to council. I think the neighbors' concerns are valid and important for consideration, specifically regarding the privacy and safety issues that were described. But I also feel very confident in having listened to the presenter on behalf of the property owners that they're willing and friendly neighbors. So I believe the process will work well. But thank you again for suggesting that council have another crack at ensuring that all concerns are met. Thank you.
I will take it that's going to be part of the motion, so it's on the record. And can I just, before I call the question, can I get some sense of timing on this because there's a lot of interest in this project? Site plan, back to us.
Through your worship to members of council, I believe, if I can speak behind the applicant, they're quite a motivated group to advance. There is some issues to work through, of course, but we would certainly work within their timelines and do our best to return. We can't put a firm date on the timeline. There are a number of other agencies involved in those comments, but we can certainly work toward, I would hope, within the first quarter or second quarter at the latest of next year, if I can put it out there broadly.
Thank you. So let me call the question. I'll ask the clerk and we'll record the vote. I'm going to guess where the vote's going to end up, but it says quorum not met. Quorum for sure. Let me just do it this way. All those in favor of this proposal, Councillor Dennis, Councillor White, Councillor Vandenberg, Councillor Burrow, myself, Councillor Stark, Councillor Calhoun, and Councillor Boucher. The motion is passed. Now I need Councillor Stark, if you can move the bylaws.
I move that bylaws 1 to 3 as printed be introduced for the first and second reading thereof and be taken as read for the first and second time.
All those in favor? And adjournment.
I move that bylaws 1 to 3 as printed be taken as read the third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Thank you, everyone.
I move that Sarnia City Council adjourn to its next regular meeting to be held on Monday, November 21st, 2022.
All those in favor? Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you then. What happened there? That's not happened before.